So hello everyone. So I will be talking about HideMyApp, a system for hiding the presence of sensitive app on Android. So my name is An. I'm working at ABB Corporate Research in Switzerland, and the work was done when I was a PhD student at EPFL in collaborations with my colleagues at EPFL, the University of Padova and University of Lausanne. So from the title of the talk, you might wonder why we need to hide certain apps, right? So let me give you a concrete use case. So I'm sure you all have heard about mHealth or mobile health, the use of mobile apps and possibly with external devices for wellness and medical purposes. And the data collected by the medical apps might be sent to a remote hospital or a medical doctor for continuous monitoring of the user's medical conditions. So such apps are increasingly popular, and given the sensitivity of medical data, security and privacy has been one of the main challenges in mHealth. But there is a privacy problem that has been overlooked in the context of mHealth. So the problem is due to the fact that on Android, any app, even without permission, can easily fingerprint other apps. They can even collect the entire list of installed apps on the device. And in the context of mHealth, the presence of an app might already reveal sensitive information about the users. So for example, if you have diabetes app, it probably tells the fact that you have diabetes. So consequently, any app on an Android phone can know the medical conditions of the users. And this information is sensitive, and it can be used to profile, to discriminate, or even to blackmail the users, right? So given the severity of the problem, we started this project, which aims to answer the following questions. So first, how fingerprintable are Android apps? In other words, what are the techniques that an app can use to fingerprint other installed apps? Second, do apps try to fingerprint other apps? And if they do, then for what purposes? And third, looking into existing solutions, we didn't find an effective solution. And therefore, we proposed HideMyApp, the first solution for hiding the presence of sensitive apps on Android. So in the rest of the talk, I'm going to walk you through the answers to all of these questions, briefly, of course. And let me start off with the fingerprintability of apps. So as you probably know, an Android app interacts with the underlying system through the Java APIs and the shell commands. And how much information an app can collect about other apps depends on their privileges and their permissions. So I refer you to the paper for a complete analysis of the attack surface. In this talk, I will show you the information that an app with default app privilege and without permissions can collect about other apps. So the information is shown on the slide. It consists of the core attributes of the apps and also the optional features as well. In particular, it includes the package names, which uniquely identify the apps. It also includes the information that can be used to fingerprint the apps. So for example, the names of the components of the apps, or the permissions and the icons and the labels of the apps, and so on. So for each information shown on the slide, there are multiple APIs that can be used to retrieve it. For example, for the package name, the package manager class provides two methods that directly return to the calling app the list of installed apps on the device. So the two methods are get install applications and get install packages. It also provides a dozen of APIs that take a package name as input and return null if the package doesn't exist on the device. And as a result, these methods, they can be used as an oracle to learn if a particular app exists on the device. So clearly, the number of methods is numerous, and therefore removing these methods, so adding new permissions, is not straightforward. It's complicated, right? So given the ease of app fingerprinting attack, naturally the question that we ask ourselves is, but then do apps, they make use of this capability to fingerprint other apps? And to answer this question, we collected 2,917 application packages from of popular apps from all 55 app categories on the Google Play, and then we perform static and dynamic analysis of these apps. So in particular, we focus on the two methods that directly return the list of install apps. As I mentioned before, get install applications and get install packages. And the reason is because these two methods clearly show the intention of the calling app to fingerprint other apps, while other methods, they can have valid use cases. So consequently, the results that I show you here can be considered a lower bound on the number of apps that try to fingerprint other apps. Okay? So we found that 19.2% to 57% of apps query for the list of install apps. And to put the number in perspective, given the fact that on average a user has 80 apps installed on the device, it's safe to assume that at least one app on the phone is trying to fingerprint other apps. Okay. We also found that most of the queries come from third-party libraries. And therefore, the app developers, they perhaps might not be aware of this activity. Our analysis on a small sample of pay apps shows that pay apps are less likely to query for the list of install apps compared to free apps, probably because they rely less on third-party libraries due to a different business model. So I would like to emphasize on the fact that our analysis was done on popular apps with millions of installations, and therefore we can say that the problems of apps fingerprinting other apps affects a significant number of users. Okay? So according to Google's privacy policy guidelines, a list of install apps is personal information, and therefore apps collecting such information have to provide users with a privacy policy stating the purpose of the collection of the list of install apps. So the question that we ask ourselves is, to what extent the app developers they follow the Google's privacy policy guideline? So to answer this question, we perform an analysis of privacy policies of apps in our dataset. So from 2,917 application packages, we collected 2,499 privacy policies. And we found that out of these privacy policies, only 162 apps, they inform the users about the collection of the list of install apps. And out of these 162 apps, 76 apps, they consider a list of install app non-personal information, which is the opposite of the Google's privacy policy guidelines. But more importantly, there are two questions that we would like to ask here. The first question is, why other apps, they didn't inform the users about the collection of the list of install apps? And second, even if they did, would the users read privacy policies? So for the second question, we know that it's a no, as confirmed by previous works and also by our user study. But for the first question, I don't really have a clear answer. It could be that the apps, they collect the list of install apps, but they don't send the information out of the phone, or it could be that the app developers, they are not aware of this activity. It could be other reasons that I don't know. But clearly, privacy policies are not a satisfactory solution to this problem, and there is a need to have an effective solution to prevent this problem. And so we propose HideMyApp, the first system that enables organizations and developers to distribute apps to the users while considerably reducing the risk of such apps being fingerprinted by nosy apps on the same device. So the scenario that we envision for HideMyApp is as follows. So a hospital or a consortium of hospitals set up an app store where app developers working for the hospital, they can publish the apps. In order to enable the users to interact with the App Store for app installation and app update, the App Store provides the users with a client app called the Manager app. And through this Manager app, the user can launch the apps that they have installed from the App Store. We make the following adversary assumptions. We assume that the App Store and the Manager app provided by the App Store are trusted and they follow the protocol. We assume there is a nosy app on the device that wants to learn if a specific app is installed on the device. And by nosy, I mean the app can have default app privilege, and it can have all possible dangerous permissions defined by Android. So this is the typical capability of Android apps. So the very high-level overview of the solution is as follows. When the user wants to install an mHealth app, she uses the Manager app to send an anonymous request to the App Store. In return, instead of returning the mHealth app to the user, the App Store returns to the user a container app with a generic package name, icon, and label. This container app is installed on the device, and at runtime, it launches the mHealth APK from within its context. Okay. So in other words, the mHealth app is never registered in the operating system. Okay. So now, launching an APK from within the context of another app is not a new idea. It's a problem that is well studied in previous works by using a technique called app virtualization. What I would like to say here is that app virtualization was designed to solve a different problem. In particular, it's used to solve the problem of sandboxing malicious apps, hence different threat model and different design requirements. And blindly applying app virtualization to the problem of hiding apps would still leak information about the sensitive apps. So the leak information can be static information and runtime information. I refer you to the paper for a complete analysis of the information leakages and the obfuscation. Here I would just give you some example of the static information. So as I mentioned before, the container app has a generic package name, icon, and label. And by using app virtualization, at runtime, the container apps can load the resources of the mHealth app, the mHealth APK from the mHealth app from the mHealth APK at runtime. But app virtualization requires the container apps to declare in their configuration files the components of the sensitive apps. And as I mentioned before, this information can be retrieved by public APIs, hence fingerprinting attacks. And to prevent this problem, in HideMyApp, the container apps declare only dummy components with randomized names. And at runtime, these dummy components are mapped to the real components of the sensitive apps. The nosy app might also try to fingerprint the sensitive apps by using the metadata of the apps. And to prevent this, for example, the themes of the apps. And to prevent this problem, HideMyApp would enforce the same themes for all the apps in the App Store. So of course, this will affect the look and feel of the app, but it's a trade-off between privacy and usability. And for permissions, the container apps would declare the union of the permissions declared by apps in the App Store. But at runtime, it will only prompt the users for permissions that are actually needed by the mHealth app. So in order to evaluate our solution, we collected 50 apps from the medical category on the Google Play. And so we chose these apps based on their popularity, their sensitivity, and the functionality of the apps. So for example, the Boiler Health Manager is an app that connects to an external device via Bluetooth to keep track of the blood pressure of the users. And Cancer.net is an app that allows cancer patients to keep track of their cancer treatment. So we look into 3 evaluation criteria. We look into the compatibility of our solution with existing apps. We look into the performance overhead introduced by HideMyApp to the existing app. In particular, we look into the cold start delays and the warm start delays. And we also look into the usability of the solution. And for that purpose, we implemented the App Store and the Manager app, and we rely on the Droid plugin library for app virtualization. So I refer you to the paper for a complete evaluation of the solution. In this talk, I will only talk about part of the performance overhead. And in particular, I will only talk about the cold start delays. So this figure shows the cold start delays of the mHealth apps when they were launched with and without HideMyApp. So the height of the columns shows the average cold start delays, and the stick shows one standard deviation from the mean. So you can see that in all of the cases, the cold start delays are less than 3 seconds. And I would like to emphasize that this is a non-optimized implementation. And even with this non-optimized implementation, the cold start delays are still within the accepted cold start delays defined by Google. So Google says that the cold start delays can go up to 5 seconds, and we are still way below that. And also, from our user study, more than 90% of people agree that a cold start delay of 3 seconds is acceptable. So to conclude my talk, I've shown you that apps can easily fingerprint other apps, and they do want to fingerprint other apps. That existing solutions are not effective, and therefore we have proposed HideMyApp, the first solution for hiding the presence of sensitive apps from other apps on the same device. HideMyApp runs on stock Android devices. It's compatible with existing app. It's effective and usable. And for more information about the project and the source code, the implementation, I refer you to the link at the bottom of the slide. And I would like to thank you for your attention. And I can take questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anne. If you have any questions for Anne, kindly step up to the microphone and state your name and affiliation.
Hi, thank you. I'm Max from a PhD student at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. So my question, is this more effective and or more sustainable than, for example, hospitals having mobile web applications?
Can you repeat the question, perhaps?
Yeah, is this more sustainable or more effective than the hospitals having mobile web applications?
Well, actually, we started this project because the hospital in our city, they wanted to have a project that, they give people extra devices and mobile apps so that people can keep track of medical conditions. And so it's actually a real use case.
Okay, so the primary trade-off is that applications currently allow, installed applications allow interfacing with external devices,
yeah.
whereas web apps don't.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, René from JQ Linz and Google again. Sorry about that in those sessions.
Can you speak louder because I cannot hear?
In the apps that you analyzed that list other installed apps, did you get any signals on which apps actually send off that list of applications and which just use it for legitimate reasons, like, for example, sorting through other apps that are on the device in their own custom share sheet?
It would be actually interesting to look into that, and I was curious about it myself, but we didn't really have time to look into that. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Raghav. I'm from the University of Nevada. Thank you for the great talk and technique. This may sound like a contrived scenario, but is it possible to expose public components through the virtualized app for inter-app communication?
So what you are talking about is, for example, like content providers, for example, in the case apps want to share the data with other apps. So if an apps want to share data with other apps, then it can be used to fingerprint the apps, right? So content providers, we could only support if the app use content providers to share the data, between the apps, between the components of the apps, but not outside, because that would facilitate fingerprinting attacks.
Okay, let's thank Anne again for answering our questions. And if you have anything else, please talk to her offline.